It's week 4 of the bet, and this week I caught myself trying to prove my worth in 3 different ways. And each time it came back to the same childhood wound. Wednesday morning, it's getting ready for work, and something clicked about why I have been so bothered when memo subscribers leave. Welcome back to the bet. Every journey starts with a choice, and mine is a bet. For 1 year, I'm gambling on energy over strategy. No more forcing and no pushing. Just the courage to show up and see what happens when reality becomes my playground. This isn't a podcast. It's a real-time experiment in the lab of my life. Welcome to the bet. Okay, I just want to kick this off real quick by saying, if you hear rain coming in and out of the background, that is because we're having a very rare rainy day here in Arizona. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out on this episode, but we have an episode to produce here. So the show goes on with or without the rain. Wednesday morning, I'm getting ready for work, and this thought pattern that's been churning around my mind finally starts to crystallize. Last week, you might remember I talked about a memo cancellation that sent me into a little bit of an emotional loop. This week, I decided to look at everybody who has unsubscribed from my email list over the last year. And something interesting happens. I don't have an emotional response to it. Instead, it really felt like I was observing it from a very different place. And this whole thing, I'm sure, is connected to day 20 of my 30-day money challenge with my current coach. I talked a bit about this last week, but it is not a typical money challenge because this one is all about excavating the layers beneath the layers about what worth and value means to us. And here's the thing about patterns. They keep playing out in our lives, especially the ones we've been trying to change without seeing any result. Those are usually tied to deeper stories that are held by the librarian of our subconscious. And one belief that surfaced this week for me wasn't even about money initially. It was about love. Childhood love. Without getting into the specifics, my childhood was marked by a very clear before and after, pre-divorce and post-divorce. Both of my parents went down very different paths, and I'm choosing not to share all those details because ultimately and truly, I am so grateful for my childhood. I truly am. It has provided me with everything that makes me who I am today. It contained all of the ingredients that allowed me to live the life I'm living today. And it doesn't serve me to frame my childhood as something else, particularly not in this, look how horrible this was, or look at what this thing did to me. But the events of that time did leave my 7 and 8-year-old self feeling very unwanted. I felt very alone, and the only children I had in my world to compare myself to were the ones I saw on TV. And I looked to those children and their TV families. And I would see parents sitting on the edge of beds, telling goodnight stories, giving kisses on foreheads, asking if their kids had everything they needed, tucking them in, wishing them sweet dreams, snuggling. And in my world, the reality was you put yourself to bed. You better take care of all your business and brush your teeth, get your pajamas on, and be in your own bed with the lights out by 8 o'clock. That was the guideline. So my little kid brain made that mean everyone else that I saw must have more love than I do because their parents are doing these things and mine are not. And that feeling about love would later map onto material things. It shifted from just affection into material things because I compared not only the affection that I saw other children getting, but the material things. And when we moved to LA at 10 years old, the reality shifted for me in terms of the material things I was exposed to. It was a very different reality. We were living in materialistic land, like ground zero for materialistic things. So, especially in the high school I went to, it was a private school. And by my senior year, I was the only person who didn't have their own car. Didn't have my own car. And it wasn't like I was demanding a luxury car, although I saw a lot of kids getting BMWs and Mercedes and all kinds of cars on their 16th birthdays. But I didn't get any car. It wasn't even a discussion. I didn't even feel like I could ask for a car. I knew that that was just not open for discussion. And my brain filed that away as more evidence of the same stories. I must not be loved or wanted as much as these other kids were. And these types of beliefs, they get mapped into our neural pathways. They become the water that we swim in. We don't even notice it. So Wednesday morning, all of these memories had been activated, and I was working through them, doing this breath work and pattern neutralization activities from the money challenge. And I'm trying to separate out these emotional mappings. And here's what I want to share with you about suffering when it comes to the brain. We feel suffering or emotional discomfort because the brain is trying to process something that can no longer be accessed. It's trying to pull up a memory as if that is happening in current time. And it's not. It is an event from our past. But because we feel emotions, very current emotions, tied to it, the brain believes it is occurring now. It's trying to get resolution on your behalf to something in the here and now which cannot occur in the here and now. It is gone and done. And this is the biological basis of so much of our suffering, so much of our discomfort, is the brain trying to reconcile something it cannot actually access. Because the truth is, the only moment is right now. The moment I'm speaking these words right now is the only moment that actually exists in time. All potential comes from the moment we're in right now. Our past is created from the moment we're in right now, and our future depends on the moment we're in right now. And as I'm reminding myself all of this with my big emotions, I realize, wait a second, if all possibility exists in this moment, right now, not in my childhood, not in high school, then none of those stories about not having enough love or not being wanted are even relevant. This is the only relevant moment. And this awareness opens up something else. It's like a key that unlocks the next level. I start thinking about all the pivotal moments in my life. Books I remember reading, conversations that shifted everything, relationships that marked a before and after for me. All of these very pivotal key moments and markers. But I don't go back and reread those books every week for the rest of my life. I don't repeat the same conversation that I had with somebody that unlocked something every single week for the rest of my life. The pivot happens, the change occurs, and we move forward. And that's when it hits me. I have been expecting memo subscribers to stay with me because that would mean they love me. That would mean I'm wanted. But if they did stay with me forever, that would actually be the opposite of what I want. That would be the opposite of excellence. I would be failing as a mentor, failing as a guide, if people needed to stay with me forever, if they needed to repeat the same message over and over, because I'm meant to be a light for the step they're on, or a light for the next step they take, not the entire staircase. I'm not trying to be their full road, their full pathway. I am a point along their way where they get what they need and move on. Talk about an exhale when I realize that. If someone uses Memo for a few months and it helps them shift and take a step forward, that's exactly how it should work. They pull it out during a slump, they get what they need, they integrate it, and they continue along their journey. That is what success looks like. That is not abandonment. Now, personally, I think Memo works best with consistent listening because it's this constant reinforcement of the general messaging that keeps the brain forward moving and progressing. But that's not my experience as a customer. That's my experience as somebody who built this product because I needed this product to master my own mind. I was determined to build a mind that wins. But a mind that wins doesn't mean a mind that's dependent on something. And I had been measuring my worth by, are you willing to show me you love my work by staying with it? Just another layer of dependency that I am sure is connected to my childhood, even though it's showing up in my business metrics. So Thursday morning, I'm recording voice notes for the week, and another pattern smacks me in the face. When I originally structured this podcast that I'm talking to you on right now, the plan was simple. Document my work every week, show how I'm building my business using energy instead of just strategy. And these Tuesday episodes would be the raw experiment where I'm sharing what goes down, what my mind is thinking, and how I'm moving myself forward. But I added a Friday mini memo drop because they sounded fun. They really did sound fun to me to do. I thought, oh, that'll be so fun. Except sitting there on Thursday morning, I realized what's really going down. It was a safety blanket. The Tuesday episodes really scare me because I don't know what's going to happen each week. And I have to show up. I have committed to show up and talk about whatever messy thing occurred, whatever the noise and the confusion and the patterns or the roadblocks, all of it. But the Friday mini memos, those I can control because those let me prove that I know my shit about the operating system of the mind. Because God forbid, someone's out there listening to this, listening to me try to figure out my business, and they start questioning whether I actually understand what it is that I'm teaching. So I added this whole other layer of content to prove my expertise to strangers who don't even know me yet. My ego dressed it up as that'll be so fun. And variety is really good for audience retention. And you know what? It worked. It worked. I think if not the last mini memo, the one before that was all about the mental equation for action. E plus S plus P equals A. Energy plus safety plus pleasure equals action. My brain needed to feel safe in order to take action in recording this podcast. And the mini memo drops were the safety. So it did get me to do what it was that I wanted to do. But now I'm asking, do I actually need them? Or am I just perpetuating another layer of this proving my worth to people that I don't even know? Though I do want to know you, whoever is out there listening, if anyone is. Kind of excited because next week is the check-in where I'll finally see the numbers. But the mini memos are starting to feel manufactured. Because Memo itself, that product, is raw and real. It is much more story-based. And these Friday drops are me trying to squeeze this wisdom into a bite-sized portion, and they're coming out sounding a bit like I'm trying too hard. Because I am. I'm working really hard to think of something that fits perfectly into that Friday slot. So part of me wants to drop them entirely. And part of me thinks maybe I should shift them, right? Maybe I'll do some kind of live skill development on Friday. I don't know yet, but just the awareness alone helps start shifting things. And then Friday morning, I catch myself in the pattern again. This time it's with Instagram. So beginning of September, I started my current Instagram experiment. The goal was how simple, how easy could I make this? I mapped out every post for the month. I loved every quote when I wrote it out, and the plan was working beautifully. Just screenshot thoughts from my notes app in the morning and post. No design, no templates, no fuss. But this week, 2 different times, I have caught myself fussing with the captions, making multiple edits, overthinking how things are going to land. And I heard this voice starting to creep in. Ooh, you better change that. Somebody might think that if you're saying it like this, you're really meaning that. It's like, oh, that's happening 2 different times. And this morning, I realized it's the same pattern. It was my ego saying, hey, if you're trying to build something out of energy here, you can't put something out that you don't 100% agree with. But the twist on that is energy isn't about believing in something 100%. When you're building something from energy, you have to remember that the energy you build it with is the energy you have to maintain it with. If I'm building a business that requires me to overthink the perception, to question every angle of what I'm saying, or on proving that I know what I'm doing here, or on being really focused on how people are going to interpret my words, that is the energy I will have to sustain forever. And is that a house I want to build? Do I want to inhabit that house? Do I want to live in that energetic architecture for the rest of eternity? And the engagement numbers, to be fair, have dropped this week. And now I'm in this loop. Are they dropping because I'm checking more and overthinking things? Or did they drop first, which sent me into a little subconscious messaging that I needed to tweak things to get the attention back? And when I'm working with energy, it's not my job to get people's attention. It's my job to manage the energy. My job is to show up in energetic resonance with what it is that I want to build. Friday morning, I had posted something about what I'm calling the trust fall, right? How we're all just trusting somebody who's trusting somebody else who's trusting someone else. And it all comes down to, are we willing to trust ourselves? And then immediately I started second guessing it. That sounds really harsh. People are going to think that I'm saying you can't listen to experts. You got to turn to yourself for everything. The drift is really subtle here. 26 days ago, when I mapped out all that content, every post felt true. Now I see myself editing things based on how I imagine strangers might misinterpret it. That is not building something with the energy I want to maintain. That is building with the energy of anxiety and control. So there's this new level of awareness for me, catching how the energy gets laced with these other frequencies without me even noticing. Okay, I also want to update you on that money challenge I mentioned. We're on day 20 of 30, and I'm still showing up, which is fabulous. That alone is different. Usually I get what I need from a challenge and bail, or I decide I can't stick with it for whatever reason, but not this time because, as I said last week, I want my damn results. I'm committed to this. This week, we happen to be exploring the hermetic principles, which are the 7 universal laws that govern everything in our reality. Things like as above, so below, the principle of vibration, rhythm, polarity. And it's super ironic because I happened to do a deep dive into these laws 5 or 6 weeks ago inside Memo. I was really breaking them down for listeners because people had asked me about it. So how crazy is it that these exact principles are showing up in this money challenge? It feels like the universe is giving me a real life lab experiment to play with them. So in this challenge, we're talking about the principle of gender, which isn't about male or female, right? It's about the masculine and feminine energies that exist within everything, including business. The masculine is this idea of push, do, force, direct, linear, strategic. If you think of a river, the masculine is the river banks, the structure that holds the water. And the feminine is the water. The feminine is receiving, creating, flowing, spiral, magnetic, intuitive. So looking at my business, where am I operating from each gender? Where am I pushing and forcing? And where am I creating and receiving? They have to be in balance. The balance matters. Too much pushing and you burn out. Too much receiving and flowing without any structure and nothing manifests. So this challenge is touching on these principles in a way I didn't expect. And it's really kind of cool to see how they play out in terms of money and business and worth and value. And speaking of business and value, I booked a session out of the blue with my old business coach, Carly. I haven't worked with her in, I have to think it's been, probably 7 months now, 8 months. So I have my first session booked with her next week, and I will fill you guys in on what happens there. But the decision itself feels significant. Again, it didn't come from this desperate, I need this or I'm going to fail kind of space. It came from, this is me leading myself, coming to her with what I have discovered rather than expecting her to discover it for me. I'm coming to her with the things I've unlocked and with what I'm thinking about doing in order to have her perspective to kind of guide me in that, if that makes sense. And it feels very much aligned with where I'm going. And another shift that kind of showed up for me this week was at the university. Every year we have a program retreat. And last year, the program director asked me to speak at the annual retreat about how it is I work with students. And I was really reluctant to do it. It felt very vulnerable to share my mindset and my brain mapping work with my academic colleagues who publish in research journals. I'm over here in my own world on a different track entirely. But their response was good, like really good. And this year, something interesting happened. I felt this urge to proactively reach out and request a block of time to present. It's definitely not something I would usually do. This idea emerged. What if everyone in our program decided to own and step into their unique gift the same way I have? Because each one of us have a very specific talent and gift that we can offer. We should stop trying to be good at everything and shift the focus to be exceptional at our genius. For me, that is helping students understand exactly how their brain works and how to move themselves forward. Not just in the treatment room, though of course I teach that as well, but how the brain builds neural pathways, how to create curiosity and interest so the brain becomes more plastic, how frustration can be used to build new neural pathways. But I want to take that beyond rehabilitation into human potential. That's where I light up. How do we use these same principles, not just to rehab something, but to achieve big dreams? Just a year ago, I was thinking about the university as stability, a paycheck. Now I'm on fire for our program to be top in the country. I want every faculty member to claim their genius so that when our students think of them, they know exactly what they're going to get. And I want to be that standard, not just teaching it, but living it. And I am living it. This year is proof of that. I have developed close relationships with other faculty, really helping them think differently, move forward in their own work. And that's kind of hard to claim for me right now, especially about my peers. But I'm seeing myself differently. I'm seeing myself acting differently. And it's all proof of this bigger identity shift that is going down. It is happening without me having to force it. Everything this week points to the same thing. I'm still catching myself trying to prove my value instead of just simply being valuable. The revelation about Memo, that people leaving are actually a success marker, not a failure. right? And then the mini memos, realizing that I'm proving my expertise in order to feel safe. And then Instagram, the drift back to overthinking, overanalyzing, thinking it has to be novel for people to stay with me. The university, finally ready to just own my particular genius, own it fully. It's all the same pattern, just showing up in different arenas. But here's what's also true. I'm catching it, and I'm catching it faster, and something is shifting. My Substack that I started is flowing naturally. That was completely unexpected. It's one of those little pings that I followed with absolutely no overthinking. I just jumped into it. And I'm really loving having the space to go deeper on concepts than really I can in Instagram. There's no obligation there at all. It's just exploration. And Instagram is going to get an October pivot. I'm still going to show up my short little easy screenshots, but instead of daily thoughts, I'm going to share the mental patterns that I see in the people I work with. And again, I almost talked myself out of doing that because these patterns seem really obvious and very elemental to me. And then I remembered they should, because I'm obsessed with how the mind works. That's literally my job. So what's obvious to me might be, completely eye-opening to someone else. The saying that keeps popping up for me this week is, nothing is a problem. I repeat it constantly. Anyone who's been in one of my groups has heard it 1,000 times. And this week, I noticed I'm truly in this space where nothing feels like a problem. Yes, I'm still busier than ever, but I don't have any problems to solve. And I don't find myself looking for them. It's true freedom. So week 4 of the bet, and the biggest shift might be that I'm finally understanding that success doesn't look like people staying with me. It looks like people getting what they need and moving forward. I'm not trying to be anyone's full staircase anymore. I am a light for the step they're on. The way you build something is the way you have to maintain it. Every energetic brick I lay, I have to live with. So this week, I'm really asking myself, what energy am I building with? Is this the house I want to inhabit? The childhood wound about being unwanted, it's still there. These patterns do not disappear overnight. But when I can see it, when I can catch myself trying to earn love through retention metrics or prove my worth through perfectly crafted, edited content, something shifts. The goo from last week, it's crystallizing into something new. It's not completely solid yet, but it is taking shape. Next week is the 1-month check-in. I will finally see the numbers. We'll find out if anyone's actually listening to this experiment. Part of me is terrified it's going to be crickets, but part of me knows that's not even the point. The point is showing up, building this with the right energy, being a light, letting my success feel like freedom instead of captivity. I don't want to build a system that feels like a trap to me. Nothing is a problem. Everything is data, and the experiment continues. Until then, I will be over here catching my patterns, questioning what we're going to do with mini memos, and remembering that the only moment that actually exists is this one. Go bet on yourself.